Recently, Matt popped up on Jason Whitlock's show. Yeah, that Jason Whitlock. The same guy who's built an entire brand off bashing anything successful, especially if it's black and confident.
Do you want my thoughts on Jason Whitlock?
You want to go there?
Every time someone brings up Jason Whitlock, I can't believe he's still with us. I don't think anything works harder than his cholesterol, if I'm being honest.
My OnlyFans is now 20% off.
Weirdos are gonna come after y'all.
Prime got draws, man. What's wrong with y'all? Prime got draws with great packaging.
Oh no. I don't know who told you that.
Matt McChesney turns on Coach Prime? The irony is wild. Man, I used to rock with Matt. I really did. I thought he was one of us. Passionate, no nonsense, buff to the bone. But the minute I found out my guy was out here voting for Trump, I jumped off that bandwagon faster than passengers off the Titanic after hearing the first crack. I was gone. Because at that point, it all started making sense. The bitterness, the weird energy, the sudden switch up on Coach Prime. You can't preach loyalty and swagger 1 minute, then turn around and side with folks who wouldn't last 5 seconds in a Buff Nation tailgate. Buff Nation. You can't make this stuff up. Matt McChesney, the man who can barely see out of one eye, a former Colorado lineman, a man who once rode hard, Diddy style for Coach Prime, has officially turned on the man he used to defend.
Jason Whitlock, you went on his show a few months back, and he kind of talked about Deion and Coach Prime and the Athlon Sports thing, and he had an interesting take, and I want you to kind of react to it and give your piece to it. Take a listen here.
Now, there's starting to be cracks in terms of people actually reporting and talking about what's going on at Colorado. Deion had a honeymoon period last year where everybody in the media was afraid of him and afraid to be called racist, and so they just ignored everything. Now, I don't think it's going to be as easy to ignore, and, starting out and a good undefeated start is the best and probably the only protection Deion Sanders has at this point. If they lose 2 or 3 games before November, I think the reporting is just going to come out and people are going to start talking about what's been going on in Colorado and what type of environment Deion has set up in Colorado, and it won't be pretty.
I'm tired of listening to him. Look, it's just another. All right. I want to go on this fat fuck show just to put him in his place at this point. The first time I was just going on to see what it was like. Now I want to drop a nuclear bomb on his show. What the fuck? This is more jargon. What is going on at CU? Prove it.
Yes.
Where are all the guns? Where are the arrests? Where are the drug dealers? Where are all the fucking bad guys? Give me a fucking break with this. Look, I didn't really understand how much of a fucking tool Whitlock was, and that's on me. But I understand it now. I totally get it. This guy's a fucking clown, dog.
And I gotta be honest, this whole thing feels less like criticism and more like career bitterness wrapped in analysis. Because let's not forget, this is the same Matt who applied for a job on Coach Prime's staff and didn't get it.
Really?
So it was me and Dre and apparently Gunner that were interviewed for this job. And I talked to Dre last night about this at length too, and they didn't call him. They didn't call me. I have a meeting with them today at 1:00, but this has already been announced. So it is what it is, bro. Look, the business of football, I've learned this a long time ago that you can't take shit personal. And it would be really small of me to get on here and wish the man ill will. I want to use all the offensive line to be incredible.
Of course.
Now, all that said, I think that I'm a better coach. And I think that I could help with recruiting at a level that I don't know if he can. And I know he can help with the infrastructure he has. But I built my own infrastructure. So, absolutely. Look, bro, I'm not going to sit here and act like I don't think I'm better. And I don't think that's wrong of me to say either.
And ever since that thanks but no thanks, the man has been running his mouth on every platform like it's an audition tape for Haters Anonymous. Recently, Matt popped up on Jason Whitlock's show. Yeah, that Jason Whitlock. The same guy who's built an entire brand off bashing anything successful, especially if it's black and confident. And what did Matt do? He sat there co-signing nonsense, criticizing the same Coach Prime he once praised.
You know, they don't talk to anybody, and it's very smug, and it's very like standoffish, and it's like that with the fans and the recruits. And I think that there's a disconnect between just because you're a great football player and you got a gold jacket or whatever, you're just a person. You're just a coach there now. You have to be, you know, open to communication and recruiting and things of that nature. Yeah, man, I think that there's a big disconnect, and I don't understand why they're so reluctant to embrace what it means to be a Colorado Buffalo.
Because if you embrace what it means to be a Colorado Buffalo, if you connect with the history, then now there is a standard that's been set. Hey, we won a national championship here. Hey, we've won conference titles here. But if you reduce it down to the previous coach only won one game, now the standards are lower. You don't have to jump as high. And so that it's all connected. You know, you don't want to connect with the history because the history sets a standard and sets a bar. It sets a target for you. Now, if you remove the history, disconnect from it, now you get to set the standard year by year.
Bro, you can't make this stuff up. That's like applying for a job at Nike, getting rejected, and then spending the next year wearing Adidas out of spite. But here's where it gets poetic. A fan on Instagram pointed this out and said, "You got one former supporter who used to be on your show, now beating the drum for the haters." And what did my man Bucky Jr. say? "It's all good. I did bro's show purely out of love. Never expected loyalty in return. That's class. That's composure. That's how a real one moves." Meanwhile, Matt's over here acting like a rejected villain origin story, talking about there's a disconnect between the coaches and the players. Yeah, no kidding, Matt. There's also a disconnect between you and reality. In that same interview, Matt said the staff needs to be completely reevaluated and implied that Coach Prime surrounds himself with yes men.
So I don't see how we can look at the staff and say that they're helping Coach Prime. And I don't think Coach Prime is helping them necessarily. I think that when you put yourself in a situation where you're surrounded by your friends, when it gets hard, are you going to fire them? And I don't think that's going to happen. I think they believe in the room that they can just sit there and tell the college kids in that room that are struggling right now what to do instead of showing them how to do it.
Bro, stop it. You're not giving expert analysis. You're giving "I didn't get the job" energy. Let's be real. If Coach Prime had called and said, "Hey, Matt, want to coach O-line?" he'd be on well-off media right now screaming, "This is the best staff in the country." It's wild how fast some folks change when the access dries up, and the irony of doing it on Jason Whitlock's platform, chef's kiss.
Everything up there is controlled, and I'm not saying it shouldn't be, by the head football coach. So he essentially has the keys to the castle, and if whatever he wants up there, he's going to get. If he wants to just not go recruit and he wants to just kind of hang out and wait for people to come to him, no one's going to push him to go do it every differently. You know, you brought up earlier that they may tell him that he has to restaff. I don't see that ever happening. I don't think Rick George and the administration above is going to do anything to piss Deion off. That's going to be, you know, the community and the media are going to have to push that in order to get anything done. If Coach Prime were to walk away, selfishly, I hope if that were to happen, I hope that he would resign so they wouldn't have to pay him. And that's just, you know, that's just the way it is.
Deion leaving without the money.
Whitlock hates everything Coach Prime represents: swagger, culture, confidence, success. So seeing Matt nod along like he's co-signing a mixtape just tells me everything I need to know. You went from protecting the buffalo to joining the pack of wolves. Here's the thing. Critique is fair. Nobody's saying Prime is above criticism. We all know this season's been rough, but there's a difference between analysis and agenda. Coach Prime doesn't need yes men, but he also doesn't need bitter ex-supporters using national platforms to settle personal grudges.
Usually, when nepotism and narcissism is involved at this level, it's really, really hard to get anybody to change doing anything.
And that's what this looks like. Buff Nation, here's the truth. We're frustrated, yeah. We want change, sure. But loyalty still matters, because the same people screaming, "Fire Prime," are the same ones who were buying We Coming hoodies last year. And as for Matt, man, if hating from the sidelines was a full-time job, you'd be up for Employee of the Month. So yeah, we see the flip-flopping, the fake outrage, the bitterness, but Buff Nation's not going anywhere because we're built differently. We don't need to tear down the house just because one room's a mess. We rebuild, we reload, and we rise. This is Buff Nation. We ride for Coach Prime till the wheels fall off. And if you ain't with us, enjoy the view from Jason Whitlock's couch. And as you would say, Matt, you're prime sexuals.